The Deathworld Chronicles the signal came from nowhere, cutting through the background radiation of deep space like a scream in silence. Communications Officer Thelvan of the Concordat vessel, Harmonious Dawn, nearly dropped his data tablet when the translation matrix finally decoded the transmission. His 6 eyes widened in disbelief as he read the message 3 times, then a fourth, hoping the words would somehow change. They did not. "Captain Revsha," he called, his voice trembling in a way that decades of military service had trained out of him. "You need to see this immediately." Captain Revsha glided across the bridge, her serpentine lower body moving with practiced grace. The Sath were known throughout the galaxy as the most level-headed species in existence. Nothing surprised them, nothing rattled them. But as she read the decoded message, her scales shifted from calm blue to alarmed purple. "This cannot be accurate," she said, though her tone suggested she knew it was. "Run a full diagnostic on the translation matrix. Check for corruption, interference, anything that might explain this." Thelvan's fingers danced across his console. "Already done, Captain. 3 times. The message is authentic and the translation is correct." He paused, then added quietly, "They are asking for directions to the nearest trade station." "They are asking," Revsha repeated slowly, "after traveling through the Scorched Zone." She turned to her navigator. "Confirm the signal's origin point." The navigator, a crystalline being named Kresh who communicated through light pulses, flashed a pattern that roughly translated to complete bewilderment. "Confirmed, Captain. The transmission originated from coordinates deep within Sector 719, the Scorched Zone. Nothing survives there. The radiation levels alone would melt any known ship hull in under an hour. Yet someone is transmitting from there," Revsha observed. "And they sound almost cheerful about it." She read the message again. "This is the cargo vessel Lucky Charm out of Earth. We seem to have taken a wrong turn at the Betelgeuse bypass and ended up in some kind of cosmic radiation storm. Pretty light show out here. Could use some navigation assistance when you get a chance. Also, does anyone know if the space around here is supposed to glow like that?" "Earth," Thelvan said, accessing the Concordat's xenological database. "I have never heard of this species." His console beeped as search results appeared. "Captain, there is no record of any species called humans or any planet called Earth in our database." "Then they are either very new to space travel or very isolated," Revsha mused. "Either way, we cannot leave them to die in the Scorched Zone." She straightened, her scales returning to their command blue. "Helm, set course for the edge of Sector 719. Maximum safe distance. We will guide them out via remote communication." The Harmonious Dawn arrived at the coordinates 6 hours later. Every sensor on the ship immediately began screaming warnings. Radiation levels were catastrophic. Temperature fluctuations ranged from absolute zero to hot enough to vaporize metals. Spatial anomalies twisted space-time like a pretzel. This was why the Concordat had labeled it the Scorched Zone and forbade all travel through it. "Broadcasting on all frequencies," Thelvan announced. "This is Concordat vessel Harmonious Dawn to Earth ship Lucky Charm. We are here to assist with navigation. Transmitting safe exit vectors now. Please confirm you are receiving this data and can execute the maneuvers." The response came back almost instantly. "Oh, thank God, another ship. This is Captain Jennifer Zhao of the Lucky Charm, receiving your vectors loud and clear. Give us about 20 minutes to swing around that angry-looking red dwarf star and we will meet you at your position." "Want us to bring anything?" "We have coffee." 20 minutes. Revsha felt her scales shift to yellow with anxiety. It would take a Concordat ship 3 days to navigate safely through the Scorched Zone using the fastest possible route. This human captain was suggesting they could do it in 20 minutes while casually offering to bring beverages. "Captain Zhao," Revsha transmitted carefully, "please understand that the region you are in is extremely dangerous. Do not attempt any rapid maneuvers. Take whatever time you need to exit safely. We are not in a hurry." "Dangerous?" The human's voice carried a note of surprise. "Oh, you mean all the radiation and the weird gravity fluctuations? Yeah, we noticed those. Jenkins threw up twice and Martinez has a headache, but the ship's handling it okay. We had to reroute some power from the air conditioning to reinforce the hull shielding, so it's a bit warm in here, but nothing we cannot manage." Thelvin looked up from his console, his eyes wide. "Captain, they just described symptoms of severe radiation poisoning. They should be dead." "And yet they are not," Refusal replied. She transmitted again. "Captain Zhao, your crew may be suffering from radiation exposure. Do you require medical assistance?" "Radiation, huh?" There was a pause. "Well, that would explain the headache. Do not worry, though, we will be fine. Humans are pretty resilient. We will take some iodine tablets and drink extra water. Should clear up in a day or two. Should clear up." Radiation poisoning that would kill any Concordat crew member in hours would clear up for these humans. Refusal added a note to her official log. Species designation. Humans requires immediate xenological study. True to her word, Captain Zhao emerged from the Scorched Zone exactly 23 minutes later. The Lucky Charm was unlike any ship Refusal had ever seen. It looked like someone had welded together 3 different vessels, added what appeared to be storage containers on the outside, and then covered the whole thing in a patchwork of mismatched hull plates. Scorch marks covered its surface. One engine was clearly jury-rigged with components that did not match. The entire vessel should not have been space-worthy, let alone capable of surviving the Scorched Zone. "Permission to come aboard," Captain Zhao's cheerful voice crackled over the comm. "I'd love to meet you folks in person and maybe get directions to the nearest station. We are hauling a load of processed titanium to the Andromeda sector, and we are already 3 weeks behind schedule." Refusal glanced at her crew. The Andromeda sector was on the opposite side of known space, at least 2 months' travel away even with the fastest ships using established trade routes. This human vessel looked like it would fall apart if someone sneezed on it. "Permission granted, Captain Zhao. You may dock at Port 7. When Captain Jennifer Zhao walked onto the Harmonious Dawn, Refusal's first thought was how fragile the creature looked. Humans were bipedal, standing roughly 2 meters tall on 2 legs that seemed far too thin to support their weight. They had only 2 arms, 2 eyes, and skin that appeared paper-thin compared to Concordat scales. No natural armor, no redundant organs visible, no defensive adaptations at all. "Captain Refusal." Zhao extended one hand in what the translation matrix identified as a gesture of greeting. "Thank you so much for guiding us out. We have been lost for about a week now." "A week?" Refusal tried to keep her scales from shifting to shocked orange. "You survived in the Scorched Zone for 7 days. Is that bad?" Zhao looked genuinely confused. "I mean, it was uncomfortable and the radiation alarms would not stop beeping, but we just rerouted power and reinforced the problematic areas." Jenkins figured out how to use the cargo bay's magnetic containment field as extra shielding. "Pretty clever guy, Jenkins." Thelvin stepped forward, unable to contain his scientific curiosity. "Captain Zhao, our sensors indicate you are suffering from radiation exposure that should be lethal. How are you still functioning?" Zhao laughed, which the translator rendered as a sound indicating amusement rather than distress. "Oh, I'm fine. Bit tired, maybe. Could use a shower and a hot meal. But lethal." "Nah, humans are tough. We evolved on what you'd probably call a death world." "A death world?" Reefsh's scales shifted to curious green. "Yeah, Earth. Not sure how it compares to other planets, but from what I understand about galactic standards, our home is pretty rough. High gravity, aggressive microbiology, extreme weather, tectonic instability, and more predators than you can shake a stick at. Natural selection was pretty brutal, so those of us who survived to reproduce had to be hardy." Thelvin was already accessing his database trying to find information on Earth. "Captain Zhao, what is your planet's gravity rating?" 1 Earth gravity." Zhao looked confused by the question. "That is just normal for us. Why?" "And in standard galactic measurements." Zhao pulled out a small device and tapped it a few times. "Looks like about 9.8 meters per second squared. Is that high?" The bridge fell silent. Standard galactic gravity, the level most species evolved under, was roughly 6 meters per second squared. Earth's gravity was nearly 60% higher than what was considered normal. These humans had evolved under crushing pressure that would make most species unable to stand. Captain Zhao, Refusal said carefully, you should know that you are currently experiencing only 60% of your normal gravity. Does this not feel strange to you? Oh, is that why everything feels so light? Zhao brightened. I thought your ship just had really good artificial gravity. This is nice actually. I can jump really high. To demonstrate, she crouched slightly and then leaped upward, easily clearing 2 meters of height before landing gracefully. Every member of the Concordat bridge crew took an involuntary step backward. Thelvan made a note in his data pad. Humans possess strength to weight ratio far exceeding galactic norms. Recommend caution in physical interactions. Captain Zhao, Refusal said, I believe we need to have a longer conversation about your species. The Concordat has no record of humans, and based on what we have observed, you may be unlike any species we have encountered before. Really? Zhao seemed pleased by this. That is kind of cool. We only started exploring deep space about 50 years ago, so we are pretty new to all of this. Most of the time we feel like the dumb kids who showed up late to class. 50 years. The Concordat had been exploring space for over 10,000 years. The Sath alone had been a spacefaring civilization for 4,000 years before the Concordat even formed. These humans were infants in galactic terms, yet they had somehow built ships that could survive conditions that would destroy vessels designed by species with millennia of experience. Perhaps, Refusal suggested, you would join me in the conference room. I have many questions about Earth and humanity. And in return, I can provide you with updated navigation charts and information about galactic civilization. That sounds great, Zhao agreed. Let me just calm my crew and let them know I will be a while. Oh, and I was serious about the coffee. Do you folks drink stimulant beverages? Because I've got a thermos full and I'm happy to share. 2 hours later, Captain Refusal had filled 3 data tablets with notes and was considering requesting a 4th. Every answer Captain Zhao provided raised a dozen new questions. The more she learned about humans and Earth, the more impossible their existence seemed. Let me ensure I understand correctly, Refusal said, reviewing her notes. Your planet has a toxic atmosphere. Toxic, Zhao considered this. Well, it is about 21% oxygen, which I guess is pretty reactive, but we need it to breathe. 21% oxygen is not just reactive, Captain. It is a fire hazard. Most civilized worlds maintain oxygen levels between 8 and 12%. Your atmosphere would corrode most building materials and cause spontaneous combustion of organic compounds. Huh, is that why the Concordat station oxygen gave me a headache last time I visited? I thought I was just tired. Zhao made a note on her own device. Good to know. Your planet also has predators. Oh yeah, tons of them. I mean, not as many as there used to be since we kind of took over most of the habitable land, but there are still bears, big cats, sharks, crocodiles, wolves, and tons of smaller predators. When we were evolving, we had to deal with saber-toothed tigers, cave bears, dire wolves, and other megafauna. Some scientists think that is why we developed such good throwing arms. We would chase prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion, then kill it from a distance with spears. You chased your prey until it died from exhaustion, Thelvan asked, his voice faint. Persistence hunting, yeah. Most animals can outrun us in a sprint, but we can jog for hours and hours without stopping. We sweat to cool down, which is apparently pretty unique. Most predators have to stop and pant to avoid overheating, but we just keep going. Some humans can run for 24 hours straight if they train for it. Refusal made another note. Humans are endurance predators. Natural pursuit hunters. Do not attempt to flee from humans. They will simply follow until you collapse. Tell me about your medical capabilities, Refusal requested. You mentioned that your radiation exposure would clear up in a day or two. Oh, humans heal pretty fast, Zhao said casually. Broken bones take a few weeks to mend. Cuts and bruises heal in days. We can lose up to 30% of our blood and survive if we get medical treatment quickly enough. Our immune systems are pretty aggressive too. We had to deal with so many diseases and parasites evolving on Earth that our bodies became really good at fighting off infections. Aggressive immune systems, Refusal repeated. Captain Zhao, Do you know what happens when most species encounter a novel pathogen? They get sick. They die, Captain. They die within hours because their immune systems have no defense against unknown threats. The Concordat requires extensive medical screening and quarantine periods before allowing any species to interact, specifically to prevent pandemic events. Zhao looked uncomfortable. Oh, should I not be here right now? Am I putting your crew at risk? Potentially the reverse, Captain. Your species may be carrying microorganisms that are harmless to you but lethal to us. However, based on what you have told me about Earth's microbiology, I suspect our pathogens would have difficulty surviving in your body's hostile environment. Refusal paused. You described Earth as having aggressive microbiology. Could you elaborate? Well, we have bacteria pretty much everywhere. In the soil, in the water, in the air, inside our bodies. There are more bacterial cells in a human body than human cells. Most of them are beneficial or neutral, but some can kill you if they get into the wrong places. Then there are viruses, fungi, parasites, prions. We even have flesh-eating bacteria that can destroy tissue in hours. And yet you survived to develop civilization. Yeah, it was tough. Diseases wiped out huge portions of our population multiple times throughout history, but the survivors passed on resistance to their descendants, and we eventually developed medicine to fight back. These days, most diseases are manageable if you get treatment quickly. Thelvin was typing frantically on his data pad. Captain Revsha, I am cross-referencing human characteristics with the Concordat's xenological database. I believe I have found a classification category. And humans qualify as a Class 12 Deathworld species. The bridge fell silent. Class 12 was the highest rating on the Deathworld scale. It indicated a planet so hostile that the Concordat had deemed it unsuitable for colonization even with terraforming. Only 3 other Class 12 worlds had ever produced sapient life, and all 3 of those species had gone extinct before achieving space travel. Class 12, Revsha breathed. Captain Zhao, do you understand what this means? Not really, Zhao admitted. Is that bad? It means your planet should have killed you before you ever developed intelligence. The fact that your species not only survived but thrived on such a world is remarkable. Revsha's scales shifted to respectful purple. You are not just tough, Captain Zhao. You are nearly indestructible by galactic standards. Zhao laughed again. Indestructible seems like a stretch. We die all the time. Hearts give out, accidents happen, cancer, old age. We are pretty fragile, actually. Your average lifespan? About 70 to 80 years, though with modern medicine some people make it past 100. Captain, the average Esath lifespan is 400 years. The Clethian species averages 600. By galactic standards, humans live extremely short lives. Revsha saw Zhao's expression shift to something that looked like sadness and quickly added, but what you do with that short life is clearly remarkable. You have achieved in 50 years of space exploration what takes most species centuries. We are in a hurry, Zhao said quietly. When you do not have much time, you learn to move fast. The Lucky Charm departed the Harmonious Dawn 3 hours later, armed with updated navigation charts and a wealth of information about galactic civilization. In return, Captain Revsha had gained knowledge that would change the Concordat's understanding of what was possible in the universe. As the strange, patched-together human vessel accelerated away at speeds that should have torn it apart, Thelvin approached his captain. "What do we do with this information?" he asked. "We report it to the Council," Revsha replied. "The Concordat needs to know that there is a new species in the galaxy, a species that survives where others would die, a species that builds impossible ships and flies through the Scorched Zone while offering to share coffee. Do you think they will become a threat?" Revsha watched the Lucky Charm disappear into faster-than-light travel, its mismatched engines somehow holding together despite defying every engineering principle she knew. "I think, communications officer, that we have just discovered something far more important than a threat. We have discovered what true resilience looks like, and if we are wise, we will become their friends before anyone makes the mistake of becoming their enemy." 3 months passed before Captain Rivsha heard about humans again. When she did, it was not through official Concordat channels. It was through gossip, rumors, and increasingly wild stories spreading through the trading stations and shipping lanes. A human cargo crew had apparently stopped a pirate attack on a Clethian merchant convoy by simply refusing to be intimidated. When the pirates demanded surrender, the human captain had replied, "We are on a deadline and you are making us late." The pirates, confused by this response, had attempted to board the human vessel. What happened next was unclear, but the end result was that 3 pirate ships were disabled. The pirates themselves were tied up and delivered to Concordat security, and the human cargo ship continued on its route, only 2 hours behind schedule. Then there was the story of a human exploration team that had crashed on an uninhabited moon with toxic atmosphere and sub-zero temperatures. Concordat rescue teams had been dispatched, expecting to recover bodies. Instead, they found the humans had not only survived for 2 weeks, they had built a shelter from the crashed ship's wreckage, established a water recycling system using ice from the moon's surface, and were attempting to repair their ship's communication array using spare parts and what one human called optimistic thinking. Another report told of human engineers who had been hired to repair a failing space station. The station's life support had been given 3 days before complete failure. The human team fixed it in 18 hours by completely rebuilding critical systems using parts that were not designed for that purpose. When asked how they did it, the lead engineer simply said, "We ignored what the parts were supposed to do and focused on what they could do." But the story that troubled Rivsha the most came from the Verxian frontier. A human colony ship had attempted to settle on Verxia IV, a planet that the Concordat had classified as marginally habitable with extensive life support systems required. The Verxian authorities had warned the humans that the planet was too difficult for settlement and would require decades of terraforming. The humans had thanked them for the warning and proceeded with colonization anyway. 6 months later, the colony was not just surviving but thriving. They had adapted the local plant life for food production, built shelters that withstood the planet's severe weather patterns, and established trade relationships with nearby systems. When Verxian officials visited to understand how this was possible, the human colonists seemed confused by the question. "Yeah, it is a bit rough," one colonist had said, "but it is not as bad as Australia." No one knew what Australia was, but apparently it was some region of Earth that made Verxia IV seem comfortable by comparison. Rivsha was compiling these reports into a comprehensive file when Thelvan rushed onto the bridge. "Captain, we have received an emergency distress call from the mining colony on Cresh VII. What is the nature of the emergency?" "Unknown hostiles have breached the colony's defensive perimeter. The colonists are requesting immediate military assistance." Thelvan paused. "Captain, there is a human cargo ship in the vicinity, the Lucky Charm." Rivsha felt her scales shift to surprised yellow. "Captain Zhao's vessel." "The same. They are responding to the distress call. They will reach Cresh VII 4 hours before the nearest Concordat security forces can arrive." One cargo ship against unknown hostiles. Rivsha moved quickly to the helm. "Set course for Cresh VII, maximum speed, and try to contact Captain Zhao. If she attempts to engage hostile forces with an unarmed cargo vessel, we need to warn her." The communication came through after several attempts. Captain Zhao's voice sounded strained but calm. "Captain Rivsha, good to hear from you. Yeah, we picked up the distress call. We are 20 minutes out from Cresh VII now. Captain Zhao, you must not engage hostile forces. Your ship is not designed for combat. Wait for Concordat security." "Can't do that, Captain. The mining colonists said they have casualties and the hostiles are breaking through to their main shelter. If we wait 4 hours, people will die. Your ship has no weapons. You cannot fight unknown enemies." There was a pause. Then Zhao's voice came back with something that might have been amusement. "Captain, humans fought our way to the top of Earth's food chain with nothing but rocks and sticks. We will figure something out." The transmission ended. Revsha immediately increased their speed, pushing the harmonious dawn to its limits. Even so, they would not reach Kresh VII for 3 hours and 45 minutes. Whatever was going to happen would be over before they arrived. When the harmonious dawn finally reached Kresh VII, Revsha expected to find debris. The Lucky Charm destroyed, the mining colony overrun, and casualties in the hundreds. What she found instead made her question everything she understood about humans. The mining colony was intact. The hostile forces, which turned out to be a mercenary raiding party, were unconscious and restrained in the colony's cargo bay. And the Lucky Charm was parked on the surface, surrounded by cheering colonists of multiple species, all trying to thank the human crew. What happened here? Revsha demanded as she met Captain Zhao in the colony's main building. Zhao shrugged, which the translator indicated was a gesture of casual dismissal. We did not have weapons, so we had to get creative. Jenkins remembered that we were hauling processed titanium, which is pretty heavy, so we used the cargo bay's magnetic crane to basically play baseball with titanium ingots. Turns out, if you accelerate a 20-kilogram titanium bar to high speed and aim it accurately, it is pretty effective at disabling enemy ships. You turned your cargo into projectile weapons. Yeah. Once we disabled their ships, they tried to retreat on foot. But we were in low gravity, and humans are really good at moving in low gravity because we are used to higher. We just kind of bounded after them until they surrendered. The mercenaries surrendered to an unarmed cargo crew. Well, they tried to fight us hand to hand, but that went badly for them. Humans are apparently a lot stronger than we look. Something about dense muscle mass from evolving in high gravity. Zhao seemed almost apologetic. We tried not to hurt them too badly. A few broken bones, some concussions, but nothing that won't heal. Revsha looked at the restrained mercenaries. They were Krador, a warrior species known for their combat prowess. Each Krador stood nearly 3 meters tall and massed over 200 kilograms. They were considered some of the most dangerous fighters in the galaxy, and they had been defeated by 5 cargo haulers who used titanium ingots as improvised weapons and then ran them down in hand-to-hand combat. Captain Zhao, Revsha said carefully, I need to ask you something important. Are humans always like this? Like what? Stubborn, resourceful, unwilling to accept defeat even when logically you should. Zhao thought about this for a moment. Yeah, I guess we are. Humans have a saying, where there's a will, there's a way. We do not give up easily. It is kind of our thing. Your thing, Revsha repeated. Captain Zhao, I am beginning to understand that humans may be the most dangerous species in the galaxy, not because you are aggressive, but because you refuse to acknowledge when something is impossible. Dangerous seems harsh, Zhao protested. We are just trying to help. That is what makes you dangerous. You genuinely believe you can help, and then you actually do it through sheer determination and creativity. Revsha's scales shifted to thoughtful green. Captain Zhao, would you and your crew consent to coming to the Concordat homeworld? The council needs to meet you, all of you. The Concordat Council Hall had stood for 8,000 years, hosting representatives from over 500 species. It had seen great alliances formed and terrible wars prevented. It had witnessed the rise of civilizations and the fall of empires. But it had never seen anything quite like the presentation Captain Revsha was about to give. Council members, she began, her scales formal blue, I stand before you to introduce a new species that has entered our region of space. They call themselves humans and they come from a planet called Earth. The massive circular chamber held representatives from every major Concordat species. Esath, Clethian, Krador, Verxian, Kresh, and dozens more. Some were humanoid, others serpentine, crystalline, gaseous, or forms that defied easy description. What they all had in common was millennia of civilized advancement and carefully maintained peace. What makes this species noteworthy? Asked Councillor Vresh, a Clethian administrator known for his skepticism. The Concordat encounters new species every few cycles. What makes them noteworthy, Revsha replied, is that they evolved on a Class 12 Deathworld. The chamber erupted in exclamations of disbelief. A Class 12 Deathworld had only produced 3 other sapient species in recorded history, and none had survived to reach space travel. Impossible, declared Counselor Threck, a Crador military commander. No species can evolve intelligence under such conditions. The environmental pressures would channel all genetic development into survival adaptations, leaving no room for cognitive advancement. And yet, Refusal activated the holographic display, showing images of Earth. Humans did exactly that. They evolved intelligence while simultaneously developing physical capabilities that far exceed galactic norms. The display showed comparative data: human bone density, muscle mass, healing rates, immune system effectiveness, endurance capacity, and tolerance for environmental extremes. Every statistic was highlighted in red, indicating it exceeded normal parameters. These numbers cannot be accurate, Counselor Vresh protested. This would make them stronger than Crador, more resilient than Kresh, and more adaptable than Verxian. No single species possesses all these traits. The data has been verified by 3 independent xenological teams, Refusal stated. Humans possess all these traits and more, but their most remarkable characteristic is not physical. She changed the display to show reports of human activities: the pirate capture, the Verxia IV colonization, the Kresh VII rescue. With each example, the council members leaned forward, their skepticism transforming into fascination and, in some cases, concern. They do not acknowledge defeat, Refusal concluded. When faced with impossible situations, they simply redefine what is possible. They turn cargo into weapons, hostile planets into homes, and certain death into minor inconvenience. They sound dangerous, Counselor Threck observed. If they are this capable, what prevents them from becoming a threat to the Concordat? Before Refusal could answer, the chamber doors opened and Captain Zhao walked in, accompanied by her crew. The humans looked small and fragile next to most of the council members, their thin skin and soft bodies appearing almost defenseless. Captain Jennifer Zhao, Refusal announced, and the crew of the Lucky Charm. Zhao approached the center platform and gave what appeared to be a respectful bow. Counselors, thank you for inviting us. I'm sorry we're not more dressed up. We came straight from a cargo run and didn't have time to change. The humans were wearing simple work clothes, stained and patched from hard use. They looked nothing like the dangerous Deathworld predators the data suggested they should be. This contradiction seemed to unsettle the council more than any aggressive display would have. Captain Zhao, Counselor Vresh said, we have reviewed reports of your species' activities. You seem to have a talent for finding trouble. Trouble? Zhao looked genuinely confused. We're just trying to make our delivery schedules and help out when we can. Is that a problem? You attacked a Crador mercenary company with cargo ingots. We defended a mining colony, Zhao corrected gently. The mercenaries were hurting people. We had to stop them. You colonized a planet the Verxian government deemed uninhabitable. It's not that bad once you get used to it. The weather patterns are actually pretty predictable if you pay attention. You survived in the Scorched Zone for 7 days. We took a wrong turn, but we figured it out. Counselor Threck stood, his massive Crador frame towering over the humans. Captain Zhao, do you understand that your species' capabilities far exceed galactic norms? You should not be able to do these things. Zhao looked at her crew, then back at the council. With respect, Counselor, maybe the problem is your norms, not our capabilities. Just because something is difficult doesn't mean it's impossible. You just have to try. Just try, Counselor Vresh repeated. Captain, the Concordat has established protocols and limitations based on thousands of years of experience. We know what is possible and what is not. Then maybe, Zhao said carefully, you've been thinking too small. The chamber fell silent. No species had ever suggested that the Concordat, with its millennia of advancement, might be limited in vision. The idea was almost offensive. Captain Zhao, Refusal intervened, perhaps you could explain to the council what drives humans to attempt seemingly impossible tasks. Zhao thought for a moment. Okay, so there's this concept on Earth called spite engineering. It's when you do something difficult just to prove to everyone who said you couldn't that they were wrong. Humans are incredibly spiteful. Tell us something is impossible and we will work twice as hard just to prove you wrong. Spite, Counselor Vresh said slowly. You are motivated by spite. Among other things, Zhao admitted. Also curiosity, stubbornness, optimism, and what we call hold my beer syndrome. That's when someone says, watch this, before doing something incredibly stupid that somehow works anyway. Jenkins, one of Zhao's crew members, raised his hand. If I may add something, counselors, humans also have this thing where we get more determined the worse things get. We call it a second wind. When we should be exhausted and ready to quit, we somehow find extra energy and push through. And revenge motivation, added Martinez, another crew member. Nothing motivates a human like someone saying you can't. Counselor Threck sat back down, looking disturbed. Your species is powered by stubbornness and spite. Not just that, Zhao said quickly. We are also motivated by hope, love, friendship, and the desire to help others. But yeah, spite is definitely in the mix. Is that weird? Reevesh's scales shifted to amused yellow. Captain, most species are motivated by logical self-interest. Humans appear to be motivated by proving the universe wrong. Well, when you put it that way, Zhao laughed. Yeah, I guess we are. The council continued questioning the humans for another 2 hours, and with each answer, the picture of humanity became clearer and more alarming. Humans pack bonded with anything, including inanimate objects. They created art and music even in desperate situations. They told jokes while dying. They adopted predators as pets. They took unnecessary risks for abstract concepts like honor and principle. They refused to abandon each other even when logic dictated cutting losses. They were, in short, completely insane by galactic standards. And somehow, this insanity made them incredibly effective. Finally, Counselor Vresh raised the question everyone was thinking. Captain Zhao, let me be direct. Your species is strong, resilient, creative, and apparently immune to concepts like quit and surrender. What stops you from simply conquering the galaxy? The humans looked at each other, genuinely confused. Then Zhao answered, why would we do that? Conquering sounds like a lot of work and we would have to manage all those planets afterward. Plus, it would be mean. We prefer making friends. Making friends, Counselor Threck repeated flatly. Yeah, friends help each other. They trade goods and knowledge. They make life more interesting. Conquering just makes enemies, and we have enough problems without adding more enemies to the list. But if you are so powerful, Counselor Vresh pressed, surely you have considered using that power to advance your interests. Sure, Zhao admitted. But our interests are mostly things like not dying, having enough food, and seeing cool stuff. We can do all that without conquering anyone. Conquering seems inefficient. This answer, delivered with complete sincerity, somehow disturbed the council more than threats would have. Humans were so powerful they did not even consider conquest worth their time. They were so far beyond typical species aggression that they found it boring. I have one more question, Counselor Vresh said. What would it take to make humanity an enemy? What would cause you to use your full capabilities against another species? Zhao's expression hardened, and for the first time the council saw something dangerous flash across her face. Hurt someone we care about. Humans are loyal to a fault. We pack bond with other species, make friends, and once you're part of our pack, we protect you. Threaten our friends or family, and you will see what we are really capable of. And if someone threatens humanity itself, then they find out why humans became the dominant species on a Class 12 Deathworld, Zhao said quietly. We survived ice ages, supervolcano eruptions, asteroid impacts, plague, predators, and each other. We colonized every environment on our planet, from frozen tundra to scorching deserts to deep oceans. We split the atom and touched the stars. We fought and died and kept getting back up. And we will not stop, ever. The chamber was silent. This was the truth the council had been seeking. Humans were not dangerous because they were aggressive. They were dangerous because they were unstoppable. Counselor Threck stood again. Captain Zhao, on behalf of the Krator species, I formally apologize for my earlier skepticism. Your people are clearly warriors of the highest order. I would be honored if humanity would consider an alliance with the Crador. We're not really warriors, Zhao protested. We're cargo haulers. You defeated a Crador mercenary company while hauling cargo, Threk pointed out. That makes you warriors, effective ones. Other council members began offering similar gestures. Trade agreements, cultural exchanges, scientific cooperation. Within an hour, humanity had gone from unknown species to the most desired ally in the Concordat. As the meeting concluded, Refusal approached Zhao privately. You handled that well, Captain. I suspect you downplayed human capabilities deliberately. Maybe a little, Zhao admitted. Figured it was better to let them discover gradually rather than dump everything at once. They seemed pretty shocked already. They were. As was I when I first met you, but I have had time to adjust to the reality of humans. Refusal paused. Captain, may I ask you something personal? Sure. Why do humans help others so readily? You save the Kresh colony without hesitation despite the danger. You respond to distress calls even when it takes you off your route. This behavior seems contrary to self-interest. Zhao smiled. Because that's what you do. You help people who need it. It's just basic decency. Most species would calculate the risk versus reward. And we do too, Zhao said. But sometimes the reward is just knowing you did the right thing. That's enough for us. Reefsh's scales shifted to respectful purple. Your species is remarkable, Captain Zhao. I believe humans will change the galaxy for the better. We'll try, Zhao replied. We're good at trying. The message reached the Concordat Council 6 months after humanity's formal introduction. It came from the border regions, where exploration ships ventured beyond known space into the vast darkness between stars. The message was brief but carried implications that sent tremors through every member species. Unknown vessels detected. Design unlike any in Concordat database. Attempting communication. Stand by. Then silence. 3 Concordat exploration ships had gone dark in the span of 4 days. No distress calls, no debris fields, just silence. Captain Refusal was called to an emergency council session along with Captain Zhao, who had been delivering cargo to the Concordat homeworld when the news broke. The pattern is clear, Councillor Vresh announced grimly. Something is systematically eliminating our exploration vessels in the border regions. We must assume hostile intent. What about the ship's defensive systems? Threk asked. Exploration vessels are heavily shielded and armed. All were operating within normal parameters before contact was lost, a technical specialist reported. Whatever disabled them did so almost instantaneously. The holographic display showed the last known positions of the lost ships, forming a rough line along the border. Whatever was attacking was moving methodically into Concordat space. We need reconnaissance, Threk declared. Send a full battle group with advanced sensors. Find out what we are dealing with. Permission to speak. Zhao's voice cut through the discussion. Councillor Vresh nodded. Captain Zhao, you have the floor. With respect, sending a battle group might escalate the situation. If these unknowns are hostile, a military response could start a war. If they are not hostile and there's been some misunderstanding, showing up with warships definitely won't help. Then what do you suggest? Threk challenged. We cannot ignore the loss of 3 ships. Send us, Zhao said simply. The Lucky Charm is a cargo vessel. We are not threatening, and humans have experience with first contact situations that go wrong. Let us try to establish communication. Captain, these unknowns have destroyed 3 Concordat ships, Vresh protested. Your vessel would be equally vulnerable. Maybe, Zhao admitted. But if they destroy a cargo hauler, the Concordat hasn't lost military assets. And if we succeed in establishing contact, we avoid a potential war. Seems like a good trade-off. Reefsh's scales shifted to concerned orange. Captain Zhao, I must point out that dying to avoid war is not a trade-off most species would consider favorable. That's why we're volunteering, Zhao replied. Humans are expendable in this situation. You've got whole civilizations to protect. We've just got 1 cargo ship. The casual way Zhao discussed her own potential death disturbed the council, but they ultimately agreed to her plan. The Lucky Charm would investigate the border region while a Concordat fleet stood by at a safe distance, ready to respond if needed. Captain Zhao, Vresh said as the meeting concluded, I want it noted that the Council does not consider any life expendable, human or otherwise. Exercise extreme caution. We'll be careful, Zhao promised. Careful is our middle name. Well, no, that's not true. My middle name is actually Rose, but we will be careful anyway. 3 days later, the Lucky Charm crossed into the border region where the Concordat ships had vanished. The crew maintained constant communication with the standby fleet, reporting sensor readings and status updates every hour. This is kind of creepy, Martinez observed from the sensor station. Space is always empty, but this feels extra empty. Stay alert, Zhao ordered. Jenkins, any unusual readings? Negative, Captain. Everything's normal so far. Wait. Jenkins leaned forward, studying his console. I'm picking up something ahead, mass signature, but it is weird. Weird how? It keeps shifting. One moment it reads as a small asteroid, next moment it is the size of a moon. The sensors can't get a solid lock. Slow to 1/4 speed, Zhao ordered. Keep all defensive systems online, but do not power weapons. We do not want to appear hostile. As they approached the shifting mass signature, it finally resolved into a visible shape. What they saw made every crew member fall silent. The vessel, if it could be called that, was enormous, easily 10 times the size of the largest Concordat station. Its hull was covered in what looked like moving shadows that flowed across its surface like liquid. Lights pulsed deep within those shadows, not mechanical but organic, as if the ship itself were alive. That is not a ship, Jenkins whispered. That is a creature. Before anyone could respond, the shadow ship changed. The flowing darkness peeled back, revealing dozens of smaller vessels embedded in its hull like parasites. They detached and moved toward the Lucky Charm with disturbing speed. Captain, incoming vessels, Martinez reported. They are not attacking, just surrounding us, but I am reading massive energy buildup. I think they are charging weapons. Hail them on all frequencies, Zhao ordered, keeping her voice calm. This is the human vessel Lucky Charm representing the Concordat. We mean no harm. We are here to communicate. Silence. The shadow ships continued their encirclement, blocking any escape route. Still no response, Martinez said. Energy readings increasing. Captain, I think they are about to fire. Zhao made a decision. Jenkins, cut the engines. Martinez, power down all defensive systems. Make us look as non-threatening as possible. Captain, that's suicide, Martinez protested. No, that's trust. Do it. The crew complied, though their hands shook. The Lucky Charm went dark, floating helplessly in space as the shadow ships completed their formation. The energy buildup reached critical levels. Then, unexpectedly, a voice filled the bridge. It did not come from the communication system, but seemed to emanate from everywhere at once, speaking directly into their minds. Why do you not flee? Zhao took a breath. Because fleeing would accomplish nothing. You are faster than us, and because we came here to talk, not fight. The others fled. The others fought. All were consumed. The others were afraid, Zhao replied. Fear makes people do irrational things. We are afraid too, but we choose to communicate instead of react. A pause. The energy readings fluctuated but did not decrease. You are different, small, weak, yet you do not flee. Humans are stubborn like that, Zhao said. We tend to make bad decisions and then commit to them completely. It is one of our less admirable traits. Something that might have been amusement flickered through the mental communication. Stubborn. We understand stubborn. We are the void collective. We exist between spaces in the darkness that light cannot reach. We came to this realm seeking resources. The ships you destroyed, Zhao said carefully, were they hostile to you? They attempted to study us, to scan us with invasive sensors, to classify us as resources. We defended ourselves. I see, and we are not scanning you. We are just talking. Yes. This is acceptable. You may ask questions. Zhao glanced at her crew, seeing their relieved expressions. They had made first contact and they were still alive. I have many questions, she said. But first, may I ask what resources you seek? Perhaps the Concordat can help. We require energy. The journey through dark space depletes our reserves. We saw your vessels and assumed they were harvesters coming to steal from us as others have done. Harvesters. Zhao's interest sharpened. You have encountered resource thieves before. Many times across many realms, species that take without asking, that consume without thought. We have learned to defend first, question later. Zhao nodded slowly. We understand. Humans have dealt with similar problems, but the Concordat is different. They value cooperation and trade. If you need energy, they can provide it in exchange for knowledge or resources you can spare. Exchange, not theft. Exactly. That is how civilized species interact. Another pause, longer this time. The shadow ships began to withdraw, returning to their parent vessel. You speak truth, small, stubborn one. We sense no deception in your thoughts. Very well, we will communicate with this Concordat, but you will facilitate. Me, Zhao tried to keep the surprise from her voice. Why me specifically? Because you chose trust over fear. This is rare, valuable. We will speak only through you. And just like that, humanity became the only species capable of communicating with the Void Collective. What had started as a potential invasion became a first contact success, all because one cargo captain decided to power down her weapons and talk instead of run. When Zhao reported back to the council, their reaction was predictable disbelief followed by cautious optimism. The Void Collective agreed to a formal meeting, mediated by human representatives. Trade agreements were negotiated. The Concordat gained access to dark space navigation techniques that would revolutionize their travel times. In exchange, the Void Collective received energy supplies and protection from the harvesters they had mentioned. But the harvesters themselves remained a mystery. The Void Collective described them as ancient entities that consumed entire civilizations, leaving nothing behind. They traveled between dimensions, appearing without warning and disappearing just as quickly. The Concordat had no record of such beings, but the description made several council members nervous. We should prepare defenses, Threk insisted during a strategy session. If these harvesters are real and as dangerous as the Void Collective claims, we need military readiness. Agreed, Vresh said. Captain Zhao, does the Void Collective have any strategic information about these harvesters? Weaknesses, patterns, anything useful? Zhao consulted her notes from multiple conversations with the collective. They say the harvesters are drawn to concentrations of intelligent life. The more advanced a civilization, the more attractive it is as a target. They attack suddenly, disable defenses through some kind of electromagnetic pulse, then begin consuming organic matter and technology simultaneously. How does one fight such an enemy? Rivsha asked. The Void Collective never found a way to fight them directly, Zhao admitted. Their strategy was always to flee, hide in dark space where the harvesters could not follow, but they mentioned something interesting. They said the harvesters fear nothing except one thing, prey that fights back harder than expected. Threk leaned forward. Explain. The harvesters are used to civilizations that panic, scatter, and collapse when attacked. They are not prepared for coordinated resistance. The few times civilizations fought back effectively, the harvesters withdrew to find easier targets. So our best defense is effective offense, Threk concluded. Show them we are not easy prey. Exactly, and humans have some experience with that concept. The Council agreed to implement a galaxy-wide defense initiative. Every member species would contribute ships, personnel, and resources. Defensive stations would be built on the border regions. Early warning systems would be deployed in dark space using Void Collective technology. And humans, despite being the newest and smallest member species, would coordinate the defensive effort. Why humans? Vresh had asked when the assignment was proposed. Because humans are the only species that has made every impossible situation work out through sheer stubborn determination, Rivsha explained. They survived a Class 12 Deathworld, made friends with the Void Collective, and turned cargo ingots into weapons. If anyone can prepare us for an enemy we've never faced, it is them. Captain Zhao accepted the responsibility with the same casual confidence she brought to everything. We'll figure it out, she told the council. We always do. The defensive preparations took 2 years. During that time, humanity went from operating a few cargo ships to coordinating the largest military and technological project in Concordat history. Human engineers designed new weapons systems based on void collective dark space principles. Human strategists developed defensive doctrines that emphasized adaptability over rigid protocol. Human diplomats ensured every species contributed fairly and felt invested in the collective defense. And through it all, humans maintained their characteristic optimism. They cracked jokes during high-stress planning sessions. They became friends with every species they worked with. They adopted the Concordat's apex predators as pets and taught them tricks. They introduced concepts like coffee breaks and casual Fridays to a galaxy that had always been formal and hierarchical. Humans are chaos incarnate, Counselor Vresh observed during one particularly lively defense planning meeting where Jenkins had just taught a Crador general a human song called Don't Stop Believin'. Yes, Refusal agreed, watching Zhao coordinate 3 different work groups while simultaneously eating something called a sandwich and humming tunelessly. But they are our chaos, and I suspect that chaos might be exactly what we need. The harvesters arrived on a Tuesday. The early warning systems detected them first, massive energy signatures emerging from dimensional rifts in 3 separate locations along the Concordat border. Each signature was accompanied by electromagnetic disruptions that disabled nearby monitoring stations. Within minutes, the defensive fleet was mobilizing. Thousands of ships from dozens of species converged on the breach points, ready to face an enemy that had been theoretical until now. Captain Zhao stood on the bridge of the Lucky Charm, which had been upgraded with Concordat military technology but still looked like a patched-together cargo hauler. Around her, a mixed crew of humans and other species prepared for battle. "Captain, sensors are coming online," Jenkins reported. "I have visuals on the enemy vessels." The main screen lit up, showing the harvesters for the first time. They were nightmares made real, ships that seemed to be constructed from screaming faces and twisted metal, pulsing with dark energy that hurt to look at directly. Each vessel was the size of a small moon, and there were dozens of them. "Status of the defensive line," Zhao asked calmly. "All ships reporting ready," Martinez replied. "General Threk is commanding the Crador forces on the left flank. Captain Revsha has the center. The Void Collective is providing dark space support. And us? We're right where you wanted us, Captain. Center front, first line of defense." Zhao smiled grimly. "Perfect. Open a channel to all ships. Let's remind everyone why we're here." The channel opened, connecting thousands of ships across multiple species. Zhao took a breath and spoke. "This is Captain Jennifer Zhao of the human vessel Lucky Charm. 2 years ago, we were just cargo haulers trying to make our deliveries on time. Today, we stand with the greatest fleet ever assembled in this galaxy. The harvesters come to consume us, to turn us into resources for their engines. They expect us to panic, to scatter, to die quietly." She paused, letting the silence stretch. "But we are not going to do that. Every species in this fleet survived and thrived because we refused to accept defeat. The Crador conquered hostile worlds through warrior spirit. The Sath overcame environmental disasters through adaptability. The Void Collective escaped dimensionalism through ingenuity. And humans, well, we climbed our way to the top of a Class 12 Deathworld's food chain with nothing but rocks and spite." Scattered laughter rippled through the fleet channel. "The harvesters think they know what prey looks like. They have never met predators before. So let's show them what happens when prey evolves teeth. Let's show them what the galaxy looks like when it decides to fight back. And most importantly, let's show them why you never ever threaten someone's home." The fleet erupted in battle cries, war songs, and affirmations in 100 different languages. The sound was chaos, but it was unified chaos, a galaxy standing together. "Captain Zhao," Threk's voice came through privately, "that was an adequate speech for a non-warrior species." "Thanks, General," Zhao replied, grinning. "From a Crador, I'll take that as high praise. Consider it such. Now let us demonstrate to these harvesters the mistake they have made." The battle, when it began, was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The harvesters attacked with overwhelming force, their electromagnetic pulse weapons disabling entire squadrons of ships. But the Concordat fleet had prepared for this. Human-designed countermeasures kicked in, routing power through alternate systems and keeping ships operational even under the pulse attacks. The Krator ships engaged at close range, their enhanced weapons tearing into harvester hulls. The S-Sath vessels used their advanced sensors to identify weak points and coordinate strikes. The Void Collective phased in and out of dark space, hitting the harvesters from unexpected angles. And the humans did what humans did best. They improvised. "Jenkins, what's the status on the modified cargo launcher?" Zhao asked as the Lucky Charm dodged harvester weapons fire. "Ready to go, Captain. Still can't believe we're using this in actual combat. If it works with titanium ingots, it'll work with these." Zhao turned to Martinez. "Target the big one's energy core. Let's see if they can digest a few thousand kilograms of explosive packed debris moving at 0.05 light speed." The Lucky Charm's cargo launcher, designed to move heavy freight, had been repurposed as a kinetic weapons system. It fired a stream of debris that human engineers had packed with every type of explosive they could find. The improvised projectiles punched through the harvester's defenses and detonated deep inside its hull. The harvester shuddered, its movements becoming erratic. Other human vessels, seeing the tactic work, began launching their own improvised ordnance. Cargo containers full of reactive chemicals, mining equipment modified to detonate on impact. One creative human crew even launched their ship's entire cafeteria, which apparently contained something called habanero peppers that created toxic fumes when vaporized. "Humans are insane," someone said over the General Fleet channel. "Thank you," Zhao replied cheerfully, launching another volley. The battle raged for 6 hours. The harvesters, encountering resistance far beyond what they expected, began to falter. Their standard tactics of pulse attacks and overwhelming force were not working against an enemy that simply refused to stay disabled and kept throwing increasingly ridiculous weapons at them. When a Krator battleship rammed a harvester vessel while broadcasting what sounded like a species-wide war cry, the harvester fleet began to retreat. "They are withdrawing," Revsha reported, her voice filled with disbelief. "The harvesters are actually retreating." "All ships pursue but maintain formation," Zhao ordered. "Do not let them regroup. Hit them hard until they are through those dimensional rifts and gone." The Concordat fleet chased the harvesters across 3 star systems, hitting them continuously, showing no mercy and accepting no surrender. By the time the last harvester vessel fled through a dimensional rift, the message was clear. This galaxy was defended by predators, not prey. As the fleet regrouped and began damage assessment, casualties were surprisingly low. The human-designed countermeasures and adaptive tactics had saved thousands of lives. Ships were damaged but could be repaired, and the harvesters had learned a lesson they would not forget. "Captain Zhao," Counselor Vresh's voice came through the command channel. "On behalf of the Concordat Council, I want to express our gratitude. Your leadership and your species' contributions were instrumental in this victory." "Just doing our job, Counselor," Zhao replied. "Though I have to admit, that was more exciting than our usual cargo runs." "I imagine so. Captain, the Council would like to discuss humanity's permanent role in Concordat defense operations. It seems we have much to learn from your kind." Zhao looked at her crew, seeing their exhausted but satisfied faces. Jenkins was already calculating repair costs. Martinez was composing a message to his family. And the non-human crew members were sharing rations and stories with the same camaraderie that had defined the entire mission. "We'll talk, Counselor," Zhao said. "But right now my crew needs rest, our ship needs repairs, and I personally need about 3 cups of coffee and a very long nap." "Understood, Captain. Whenever you are ready." As the channel closed, Jenkins looked up from his console. "Captain, I just calculated how many credits worth of cargo we used as ammunition." "It is not good news." "Yeah, but we saved the galaxy," Zhao pointed out. "That has to be worth something. Our insurance company is going to have questions." Then we will tell them the truth. Our cargo was urgently needed elsewhere and we delivered it directly to the customer's hull, at high velocity, with explosive results." Martinez laughed. "I love that we are still thinking like cargo haulers even after saving civilization." "That's because we are cargo haulers," Zhao said firmly. "We just happen to be cargo haulers who occasionally fight off interdimensional threats and make friends with shadow beings. But at our core, we are haulers, and we have deliveries to make. Even now, especially now, the galaxy needs to see that life goes on, that we are not going to let some harvesters disrupt our schedules, that humans and the Concordat and everyone else are going to keep going no matter what the universe throws at us." She stood up, stretching muscles sore from 6 hours of combat maneuvering. "So let's get this ship repaired, pick up our next cargo, and get back to work. The galaxy isn't going to save itself, but it doesn't need to because we're here to do it while we're on our way to somewhere else." The crew of the Lucky Charm cheered, and across the fleet, other ships began their own recovery efforts. The battle was over, but life continued. That was the real victory. Not just surviving, but refusing to let survival define them. In the weeks following the battle, humanity's role in the Concordat changed dramatically. No longer seen as quirky newcomers or interesting anomalies, humans became recognized as a cornerstone species whose unique traits made them invaluable to galactic defense and cooperation. But the real changes were more subtle. Human concepts spread through the Concordat like wildfire. The idea of coffee breaks revolutionized workplace productivity. The practice of casual Fridays made formal species more relaxed. The human tradition of going above and beyond inspired other species to exceed their normal limitations. Most importantly, humans taught the galaxy something it had forgotten over millennia of careful protocols and established procedures: that sometimes the best solution to an impossible problem is to simply refuse to accept that it is impossible. Captain Revsha documented all of this in her comprehensive report to the Concordat Council, concluding with words that would be quoted for generations. "Humans are not the strongest species in the galaxy. They are not the smartest, the longest-lived, or the most technologically advanced. But they possess something that makes them perhaps the most important species we have ever encountered. They possess the absolute conviction that tomorrow can be better than today and the stubborn determination to make it so. They evolved on a world that tried to kill them every single day, and instead of being broken by it, they became the most resilient species in the galaxy. They do not give up. They do not accept defeat. They do not acknowledge impossible. And perhaps most remarkably, they want to share this resilience with everyone else. They do not hoard their determination or use it to dominate others. They teach it, encourage it, inspire it in those around them. This is not a species to be feared, but a species to be cherished and protected. Because if the galaxy ever faces a challenge so great that even our combined civilizations cannot overcome it, I suspect it will be humans who find a way forward, simply by refusing to admit that no way exists. Humanity, fuck yeah." The report ended there, with those 3 words that had become humanity's informal motto. The council approved it unanimously, adding only one note: that the phrase "humanity, fuck yeah" should be considered an official Concordat expression of respect and admiration. And somewhere in the cargo bay of the Lucky Charm, Captain Jennifer Zhao was already planning their next delivery route, humming tunelessly, completely unaware that she and her species had just changed the entire galaxy's understanding of what was possible. Because that was what humans did. They changed things. They improved things. They refused to accept the universe as it was and insisted on making it better. Not through conquest or domination, but through persistence, creativity, friendship, and an utterly unreasonable refusal to give up. And the galaxy, for the first time in millennia, had hoped that whatever came next, whatever challenges the universe might throw at them, they would face it together with humanity leading the way, armed with cargo ingots, improvised weapons, spite engineering, and an inexhaustible supply of coffee. Because in the end, That was what humanity, fuck yeah, really meant. Not that humans were perfect or superior, but that humans were here. They were trying their best, and they were not going anywhere. And that made all the difference.